And I would like to welcome Dr. Owen Fleming. And Owen, tell us a little bit, why is it a good time to join biopharma sector?
Thank you, Lenka. So I suppose globally we've seen a huge growth and investment in the biopharma sector in the last number of years. And this kind of dates back to the sequencing of the human genome a little under 20 years ago. And what this has done is it has provided us with incredible insight into how cells work and how, when cells go wrong, diseases begin to develop. So I suppose the research that has been done since the human genome has been sequenced and a little bit prior to that has allowed for the development of a number of new, what we call biotherapies, novel biotherapies. And look, I suppose there's been quite a success in some of these in the last number of years. We've seen a lot of very successful monoclonal antibodies being developed and used. We've seen gene therapies beginning to develop. So really what we're seeing now at this particular point is a significant investment from the companies in order to support and to further drive these technologies, okay? So everything from the development of new vaccines, I suppose this is very pertinent at the moment in terms of our COVID-19 situation, but developing vaccines, developing immunotherapies, new cell-based therapies, gene therapies, that a lot of these opportunities are now beginning to materialize, and the companies are investing very heavily in developing these technologies. So, for example, we've seen in the last week or so that Johnson & Johnson have made a significant purchase of a biopharma company in the US, something similar with Sanofi. And I think there's just the realization that this is where the therapies are at the moment, and trying to invest in that and trying to develop that. And I suppose I would follow on from the point there that Patrick was making, that I suppose this is what's happening globally. But here in Ireland, we're very lucky in terms of being this kind of European hub in terms of the presence of major pharmaceutical and biopharmaceutical companies here in the country. And certainly within the greater Munster area, we're very fortunate in terms of having a number of the big players from Regeneron to Janssen, Eli Lilly, Genzyme. So there's huge numbers of these companies within the Cork area. There are a lot of opportunities within them. And look, what we're seeing is that they're all investing heavily in new facilities, in new technologies, and they're looking for people to fill new opportunities that are arising within the companies.
Sounds fascinating. You know, my previous studies were not linked to biopharma. And many of our listeners here today, they may not have any background in this area.
Yeah. And
I'm looking for a fresh start. So is this course for me, and what skills would I gain?
So what we're seeing, and again, no more than the previous comments there from Patrick, we engage with some of the local skills forums, and that's our I suppose, our gateway to talking to some of the local companies, the players. And it's very evident, you know, as part of the expansions that they're undergoing, that there are requirements for new skills that wouldn't necessarily have traditionally been associated with biopharma. So, you know, previously we would have been looking for maybe biochemists and microbiologists and engineers. But now, because of these expansions, there are opportunities for people from a very wide and diverse background of experiences and academic qualifications. So, you know, we will be looking to upskill people, and, you know, the whole course is a conversion course, allowing us to, I suppose, take people from diverse backgrounds and give them an understanding and an appreciation of what's going on within the biopharma sector. So, for example, there's modules on you know, how cells work, and how, when disease happens, how cells go wrong, and how it is opportunistic for us to develop specific biological medicines in order to solve biological problems. So we'll be giving people skills in that particular space. We will also, there's a module on bioprocessing, what's called upstream and downstream processing. And this is really what goes on within the larger biopharmaceutical companies in terms of getting cells maybe to make a protein, a biological drug, and then purifying the biological drug. So we have modules on that, as well as modules on the manufacturing process within a sterile environment. So obviously, in terms of producing drugs that are going to go into human patients, they have to be produced in a sterile environment. And they're it's done in a very highly regulated environment. So again, we have modules that will be explaining these sorts of concepts to the students. We will also have a module on process and chemical engineering, because I suppose one of the challenges is to produce these drugs at a sufficient level that we can try and drive down the costs of them. So one of the aspects associated, or the elements central to that, is how these biopharma processing plants are engineered. So we have a module from them. We also have a module on validation and verification of the process, making sure that we're making the protein drug that we're trying to make, and making it at a sufficiently high standard. Then at the very end of the year, we're hoping that the last week of April and the first week of May, we'll bring our students in on campus in order to do a kind of a hands-on training exercise. And this will be complemented by simulated training. There's a module on this simulated training that will really give these students from a broad range of backgrounds the opportunity to really see what's involved in making these protein drugs. We'll have cells that will make the drug, we will purify it, we will characterize it. So it really provides an overview, a very, I suppose, hands-on overview of what's involved within the biopharma industry.
That sounds really, really interesting. Tell me a little bit in a nutshell about careers. So who would employ me then? Who is going to be looking for me and my skills?
Yeah, so that I think depends on the skills that you would bring into the course. So you know, some people will come in with very diverse backgrounds that are not in the science and engineering field, and we would be hoping that they would be able to look for technical or operator roles once they've gotten the qualification. For those coming in from different backgrounds, they would be able to maybe fulfill QA roles or lab scientist roles out in industry. And look, I suppose Patrick touched on it the last time, that there is a need for people with languages. This is one of the things that was picked up in our interactions with the biopharma industry. They're looking for people with languages, with IT skills, with mathematical backgrounds, capable of doing data analysis. So really what we're hoping our course will do is it will kind of link up people with these previous experiences and academic qualifications, and really upskill them and convert them so that they're in a position where they can appreciate what goes on and how their qualifications are relevant within the biopharma industry.
Thank you, Owen. Thank you so much for joining us here today. That was really informative. Thank you.